Hey guys, I know a lot of you watch the show 90 Day Fiancé and may be curious about what it actually means and what it entails to petition for the K1 visa for someone. And that's why I have decided to do a little series with my friend Saman at immigration underscore attorney underscore Saman. You can follow her on Instagram, on TikTok. We've been doing these lives, kind of explaining about things, and I want to post it for you on YouTube so you can go back, use it as a reference. She's based in Florida, but she handles immigration cases all over the U.S. because immigration is federal law. Anyways, so I hope you enjoy the series. If you do, please please subscribe, and please comment and let me know what you think. If you have any other questions, if there's any other topics, any other things that you'd like to bring up, because we're definitely going to be doing it again. And as I said, if you're not subscribed to me, subscribe to me. If you're not following Saman, please follow her. She's wonderful and she's a great source. And if you're looking for an immigration attorney, you can't go wrong with her. So, subscribe, all of that. Thank you.
Okay, so we have Ari from 90 Day Fiancé, and what we wanted to do today was basically learn a little bit more, not just about the K1 visa, but also about your personal experience, what you went through. And we also wanted Saman's perspective because you're going to bring a lot of the legality and the technicalities to the process. So it gives it a little bit of balance. Saman has been an attorney for the past 18 years. This is one of her most common processes. We see it all the time. And Ari, we're so glad that you took the time to join us today.
Oh no, thank you guys. I'm happy to I'm happy to speak with you, and also I like to learn things that I didn't know. So hopefully I'll, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like very excited to ask you questions and stuff. So
I'm sure it's one thing to have to speak to an attorney and get all of, like you said, like the legal information. And it's another process when you're actually speaking to somebody that went through a personal experience, because there's so many different obstacles along the way, different, new information that comes up, processing time, just a whole nother experience that you have to personally endure. So it's cool that people get the chance to share those experiences. And I'm sure you get a lot of messages asking about, advice, comfort, support, and all of that goes with the K1 process. So thanks for joining in on it. So go for it, Madeline.
Okay, so let's start with the basic question is why choose a K1 visa and what is it?
Well, the K1 is the name of the visa for a fiance of a United States citizen. And the United States citizen petitions to the Immigration Service stating that they meet the eligibility requirements to ask for a foreign national to come to the U.S. with the intention of marriage. So it's basically a promise that you're saying to the U.S. government that this person is going to come to the U.S. and we want to get married. And from getting married, then that applicant can get other immigration benefits. But essentially, that is the K1 identified petition process. And with that petition, you have to actually see the applicant within 2 years of filing the petition. You have to be legally single, which can always be a hurdle for people with previous relationships. And you have to also be clear of a criminal background history, especially when it comes to previous domestic violence charges or sex crimes. So these are the three main eligibility requirements for the K1 process.
or you just brought up a whole bunch of questions in my mind with all of that. I just a note. I have the experience, filing for the K1 visa for Binyam, who is now my husband. But I also, obviously, many people that are watching this know my ex-husband's also foreign. Well, he's a citizen now, but he was a foreign national when I brought him to the U.S. and I brought him to the U.S. on a spousal visa. So I have that experience of the spousal visa and then the K1. So it's not necessarily something to be proud of, but I mean, it's, life
You get to go
experience.
through the different immigration options.
Well, actually, why did you choose on your second time around the fiancé visa instead of the marriage visa?
Yeah, actually, I wasn't sure which one to choose, but so I was married before, and that impacted the decision to do the K1 because I was divorced. I need in Ethiopia, they wanted to see, in order for me to get married in Ethiopia, they wanted to see a paper that said that I was eligible to, no, that I was something we don't have in the U.S. It was basically like a paper stating that,
certificate, like a status
yes,
certificate. Yeah.
yeah, something from the State Department about my marriage, and I was like, I was married in Argentina, and then I was divorced in the state of New Jersey. I can give them the divorce certificate, but they're like, no, we don't want that. And then it had to go through the embassy. They said I was going to have to get this document notarized, and then it was going to have to go through their Department of Foreign Affairs. And I was like, that's just like crazy. I'm not doing all of that. So I went to the embassy actually, and I asked them, is it going to, like, because I was living in Ethiopia, I was, it wasn't like we were far apart, and I wanted to petition to bring him to the US. So I asked him, is it weird if I file for a K1 visa? Like, are you going to think that's suspicious? And the consular officer was actually really nice and told me that most of the consular officers who fall in love with foreigners file for K1 visas, at least in Ethiopia. So that's why.
The K1 was designed also to process faster than a spousal visa, right? The spousal visa, you're doing the green card process through the visa center. So like your ex-husband came to the US on his resident status. You didn't have to do another filing for him here, right? The
Right.
K1 is just going petition to embassy. It doesn't go to the visa center. So the process just by logistics is designed to be faster. So that's also probably why they bring their, soon to be spouses on that visa as well.
Well, in theory, it was supposed to be faster, but then I filed right at the time that COVID happened. It was actually supposed to go back to the U.S. to visit my family in March, was 2020. And then it was like, oh my God, like the world is ending. So yeah, it wasn't very fast. I mean, it wasn't that slow. I know some people are waiting for a very long time.
Did the K1 visa have anything to do with why you chose to move to Ethiopia?
I wanted us to, so I also thought the K1 visa would be faster because I wanted him to be around for the not for the pregnancy, but also for, for the birth. And I ended up having to have the baby in Ethiopia because there was no way that I was going to end up happening. And then I ended up, it was funny because I did all this research to like file, and I wanted to file as soon as possible. I ended up filing after the baby was born because of all the research and everything I had to do. It took like months to figure it out. And I did it by myself. So that was hard.
How was it getting Binyam's biographic documents, like his birth certificate, and how was that? Were these documents that he already had, or did it take some time getting those documents? Because as you know, immigration is all about documents. If you don't have documents, forget about it. So, and I know obviously in other countries, the system is not the same as it is here in the United States. So a lot of times it can be a challenge. How was it for you guys?
It was funny with the documents because luckily Ethiopia, even though English is not an official language at all, their documents are in Amharic and in English. So I didn't have to get it translated, thankfully. Even I saw the high school certificate and all that stuff is in English, but it was like Binyam already had a lot of his stuff because he had previously been to the U.S. and had to apply he had gotten a humanitarian parole visa, which is another very difficult one to get. But it was funny because after my son was born, so my son was born abroad, and I wanted to bring him, I wanted to get him his U.S. passport as soon as possible, and declare that he was a U.S. citizen through me. In Ethiopia, I went to go get his birth certificate because they give you a certificate at the hospital, but they tell you have to go get the birth certificate. And when I went there, they told me, "Oh, we don't have any paper left." And I said, "Well, I could buy you some paper, like, not a big deal." Like, and they're like, "No, no, special government paper." Like,
Oh.
so I was like, "Listen, like, I really need this birth certificate." And they were like, "No, no paper." And so I went to the American Embassy, and they're like, "Nope, sorry. If you don't have the Ethiopian, birth certificate, like, there's nothing we can do." So for like 2 months, I was like, going there and like, "Do you have paper now? Like, did the paper come yet?" And like, I was kind of panicked because my son wasn't recognized as an American citizen. So luckily we didn't go through that with Vinny, but I did experience that bit with Avi. Before with the K-1 visa, you shouldn't have a criminal record, right, to be able to file for a K-1 visa.
Well, so it actually depends on what the criminal record is. So keep in mind, when again, what is the foundation of the K-1? It is an intent to bring somebody to the U.S. for marriage. So the rules for the K-1 are different for the spouse because that is then a legal relationship. So the Adam Walsh Act governs the K-1 petition process. And under that act, crimes involving domestic violence, sexual assault crimes. These crimes are listed, and they basically are roadblocks into filing for the K-1. You can file a waiver. You can file a waiver if you have these type of convictions, but it's really hard to get that waiver approved. You have to show rehabilitation. You have to, they go through an analysis of the police report. I mean, I've seen crimes for domestic violence, assault, not heavy domestic violence, but where both parties get arrested and whatnot for 30 years back, and it still comes up on the K-1 application, and petitions have been denied for it. So they're really strict on vetting that. And this also leads to, not putting the foreign national in a situation of any type of sex trafficking or being with a abusive person. So these are the measures that are taken for that.
Right. Yeah. No, I was curious about that because there have been people on the TV show that have had criminal records, and I always wondered, like, how are they gonna petition? Yeah.
Yeah, so I do recall there was one season where I believe the U.S. citizen, he had some domestic violence charges, and if I'm not mistaken, he actually ended up doing the spousal visa because he couldn't bring her here on the fiancé visa. That's how you get around it, because it's not scrutinized the same in the spousal visa.
It's interesting. Crimes that you could commit in with this like spousal visa that they'd be like, "No, we're not. You can't bring someone here."
Well, they don't ask.
Oh, okay.
They don't ask. In the fiancé visa, they ask. It's on the form, and they make sure that the beneficiary knows the crimes. Part of the Adam Walsh Act is that the beneficiary needs to be aware that the petitioner has these crimes. When you do spousal visas, they don't ask.
Oh.
I mean, even in the US, I mean, I've had petitioners who are incarcerated petitioning for their beneficiary and be successful.
Oh, wow. I had no idea that you could do that.
And there's also on the fiancé visa the multiple filer. I've had situations where if you file multiple fiancé visa petitions for people, you have to get a waiver for that too.
I was worried that, I mean, in this case, I had only filed the K-1 for Buniam. I had not previously filed, right? But I was worried that when I filed, they were going to say, "Oh, well, you were married to a foreigner before. This is, what are you just bringing people over here?"
To be honest with you, it's very common. It's not, there are people who marry people from all over the, world, different countries. And, I don't think that that's so much the issue as much as it is just investigating what the story is, like how the last relationship ended. When did the new relationship start? How did the new relationship evolve? So these are the questions that they ask. But with the fiancé visa, unlike the spousal visa with all those restrictions, they make sure that the petitioner is eligible and qualified to actually petition.
So, quick recap. If you like that, please like, share, subscribe, and comment below.